Hey everyone, this is Nick, and today I'm going to do the challenge for lesson 3. We're going to start out using these 3 files that I've got up here and open them in Photoshop. So let me go ahead and get Photoshop open. And the theme for this week was, famous people in history, so I decided to choose my favorite president, which is Theodore Roosevelt. And we're going to follow a similar process to what we ended up doing in the lesson. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new file. And we're going to make this file with the same background size as my screen area. So it's 2560 by 1440. And we'll go ahead and leave a white background and click Create. Okay, so now that we've got the file created, let's go ahead and start bringing in some of these images. So we'll start with the background. Okay, we've got this. Let's size this down because I want to be able to do like a gradient background when I get finished here. So I'm going to size this appropriately so that you'll still be able to see the gradient background underneath this, and I'm going to do some blending to make it look as though this is a piece of paper sitting on top of something else. Okay, that looks pretty good, so let's go ahead and go up here. We'll click the check mark and lock that size in, and then the next thing we're going to do, we're going to bring in the headshot of Mr. Roosevelt. And I acquired all of these on the internet, so I will have links and files for everyone to download. I'm going to hold the shift key down and we're going to size this appropriately for this background. So let's take it down a little bit more. There we go. And then let's move this into position like so. And we'll bring this down just a little bit so that it's not all the way up there at the top. Okay, that looks pretty good right there. So let's lock this in. And the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and rasterize this image. And once I get finished doing that, I'm going to do just a little cleanup here with the eyedropper tool and the paintbrush. I'm just going to remove this text because I'll put that in the description. Okay. So now we've got the image, we're pretty much ready to go. It's rasterized. What next? We want to go up here to image and we're going to choose adjustments. We're going to come down to desaturate and just make sure that there's no other color or anything like that in the image. It was already a black and white image, so it should not have had any color in it, but we just want to make sure that that's the case. So now that we've got that, we can come over here on the side. Again, we still have the portrait layer selected at this point. So we're going to click this drop down where it says normal, and we're going to come down to where it says multiply. And once we do that, then it's going to go ahead and kind of combine those 2 layers together. So we've got the portrait layer combined into the background layer, which looks really good. Actually, I wasn't sure how that would look at first, but it looks pretty good. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring in the text line. Now I thought about writing out a signature, but I thought it would actually look better if I had Mr. Roosevelt's signature itself, so I went ahead and I got that. The background on it was transparent because it's a vector graphics file, so you can size it whatever size you need to because it's based on the coordinates. It's not a pixel based image. So we'll bring this down, and I'm holding the shift key down while I'm doing this. And that looks pretty good, so I'm going to let go. We'll go ahead and lock that in, and then now let's move this. Oop, moved the wrong one there. Let's go ahead and move this underneath here and get it lined up. Okay, so we got that lined up center line. That looks really good. Let's just bring it down just a little bit so it's not right up there on the actual portrait. And we'll drop that right there. So that looks pretty good so far. The next thing that we want to do is I'm going to unlock this background here. And what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to the layer menu and we're going to go to new fill layer gradient. And once I do that, I'm going to click OK. And then I want to change my gradient. Now the last time I used this color, so we're going to use the black and white, kind of keep it going with that theme right now. And that's been selected, so we'll go ahead and click OK. And that looks pretty good so far. Now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and select this parchment paper layer right here, and I'm going to right click on it because I want to do some blending with the layer. And I want to do some blending so that I can make it look like it's kind of floating on top of that background. So we're going to come down here to drop shadow. We're going to select that, but then I'm going to click the plus button on here. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I'm actually going to play with the opacity a little bit more. So I'm going to kick that up to about 65 roughly on that one. And then on this one, we'll just kind of leave that. Maybe we'll take it up to, say, 58, 60. Just type in 60. Okay. And that looks pretty good because now we can see that it's really looks like it's, you know, just floating on the paper the way that that shadow is. I like that a lot. You can add an inner glow to this thing if you want to. It just depends on whether you want to actually do something like that or not. When you do, you know, it's going to add that kind of glow to it to where it I've heard it works good, I've heard it doesn't work good. The other thing you can add also is the inner shadow. And again, kind of the same principle on that. You can go in and you can adjust this, the distance. And if you do, I mean, I just don't think it adds enough to the image when you do that. I think in a lot of cases it's better to not do the inner shadow and just do the outer shadow, because when you do the outer shadow, if you add the inner shadow, it more or less just darkens up this edge up here at the top, which in some respects would be good, but for our purposes, I just want it to basically look like the paper is floating, which we've already accomplished that with the drop shadow. So there's really no point in doing the inner shadow when the drop shadow is doing exactly what we need to. Okay, let's click OK. And that looks pretty good. Let me just kind of select off here so that we don't have any of the little drag tools on the screen. And I think that looks like a pretty good image, guys. So let's go ahead to the File menu, and we're going to save this. And so I'm going to save this as challenge3. And we'll just save it to the desktop. Okay. And I'm going to do one more file save. And this time we're going to do a file, save as. And this one's going to be a JPEG. So I'm going to save it as a JPEG file. Again, it's already called challenge3, so we'll just leave it at that. We'll choose save. And then we'll just leave all the defaults here and select OK. Alright, so the last thing we want to do is close our file out, which we are done at this point. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of Photoshop. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.